Good morning. Welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual free thinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Nancy Reed, your worship associate for this morning, and the service today will be led by Reverend Susan Frawley. She is the contract minister at Hamburg UU Church in Hamburg, New York. Welcome. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, also including music by Bill Mills, nursery care for the children under 3 by Melissa Jacoby, and the Children's Church for Children 3 and over, today led by Pat Mills and Kaya Mills. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book, please. And whether it's your first visit or your 100th, or your 1000th, we are glad you came. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We will plan on continuing with hybrid worship services through the church year. So you can join us each week here in person or on Zoom or later on YouTube. I do have a few announcements to share with you today. Please join us after the service for our second Sunday potluck. Thanks to those who brought something to share, but please stay even if you didn't. We always have enough to share, miraculously. Next week, we'll have a solstice service led by Ken Hutton, and on December 24th, we'll have church at the regular time with special music from our choir and a no rehearsal pageant. There will not be regular Sunday school for the kids on either of the next 2 weeks. They'll be with us. The Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, the UUSC for short, has provided videos for us to share during our annual participation in Guest at Your Table. In order to introduce the guests, the theme this year is Pursuing Liberation. If you would like to donate, you can visit uusc.org/give-to-guest or pick up materials from the table in the back. Please return any donations by the end of December. You can go to Danielle Lyon with any questions, and we will now share this week's video.
Alliance for Black Justice in Poland, BJP's mission is to address the inequities Black and brown people are experiencing due to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The organization is deeply committed to Black, feminist, and queer frameworks. Since its founding in March 2022, BJP has provided transport between cities and border areas, legal advice for those who stay in Poland, and connected people with healthcare, safe accommodations, and other material services. Since mass evacuations have slowed, the BJP has pivoted from emergency services to providing long-term support for Black people residing in Poland. BJP plans to continue its work in a few key areas. One of those ways is through an ongoing community building activities and housing and welfare support. BJP's collaboration with UUSC helps the organization boost its public profile While they currently have an established media presence via Facebook and Instagram, the organization wants to expand to allow them to engage with issues concerning Black people in Poland proactively.
Yep. Are there any other announcements? Pat?
As you probably know, Jeff Gretton makes beautiful ceramic pieces, and he donated all the proceeds from sales at the Bloomfield Holiday Craft Fair to the church. And now we've transferred his display to the church, so in case you didn't have a chance to get to Bloomfield, the ornaments are across from the bathrooms in the library, right back here. And there's a cash box, so if you choose to buy any, the sales, the money will go to the church, and they're absolutely beautiful. Something for everybody. Thank you.
One more. Hi, Karen.
I just wanted to remind everybody we are having a cookie sale and share next week. The share part being bring an extra plate of cookies so we can eat them after service. You can taste what you're getting beforehand. And so focus on the bake sale, also the sharing, and please come and join us.
If you have joys and sorrows to share, you can fill out a card that's on the table in the back. Oh, we have another one. I'll finish this, and then I won't say that again. All right. If you missed the table on your way in this morning, it's okay to go back and add your card before the end of the first hymn. And now, we have one more announcement?
Yeah, just the board meeting is this Tuesday at 6:30, so if there's anything that you'd like the board to discuss or put on the agenda, please reach out to me, Brandon Steele, and I can put that on the agenda. So hopefully they heard that through the microphone.
And in case anyone that is at home could not hear you, I'll just say there's a board meeting on Tuesday. What time?
6:30.
6:30. If you have anything you want to have included in that, or if you want to visit, reach out to Brandon Steele. Thanks. As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your cell phones and other devices. We now enter a space of worship. Do I have a volunteer to help me light the chalice? Elliot? Will you join me in our chalice lighting words? We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning, I'm Reverend Susan Frawley. It's my honor and privilege to be in your pulpit. I have a little head cold. It's not COVID. I've tested twice, but I'm wearing a mask if I'm near you, but I'm going to take it off just so you can hear me. For our opening words this morning, I have two sources to share with you. The first is from humorist Dave Barry, who wrote, "Once again, we come to the holiday season, a deeply religious time that each of us observes in their own way by going to the mall of their choice." The second is from Buddy the Elf, and it's appropriate for what we'll be doing with Bill in just a moment. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing real loud for all to hear.
And so with that in mind, our opening hymn today is number 228, Once in Royal David's City. Please rise as you're willing and able, and join us to sing this.
Do we have any joys and sorrows cards back there? Whether you put a card in here or not, know that whatever is in your heart, we share with you today. And now we have a story, I think.
We do. So I invite the young and young at heart who wish to come forward to hear a story, a different story you may never have heard about Christmas. Good morning, everybody. Sit wherever you'd like to sit. Are you comfortable? So you may have heard the story about the shepherd. Oh, you'd like, thank you. Will that work? Let's see. How's that? That works? Close? Okay. So you may have heard the story about the shepherds that were in the field on the night that Jesus was born. And the minister who broke the mic. Okay. So you may have heard the story about the shepherds who were in the field and how they went from their sheep and their flock to go see the new baby. But there's a story about a shepherd that I'm guessing you never heard, and I wanted to tell you about it today. This shepherd's name was Opie. That was his name. Never heard of a shepherd named Opie, huh? And Opie, while everyone else was going to the faraway manger to see the new baby, he stayed with the flock. While he wanted to go, he knew that part of his duty was to make sure that he stayed and protected all the sheep that were in his care. This is a new game called Where Is It? Okay, there's one. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about the noise. So, Opie stayed with the flock, and while he was with the flock, he saw beautiful lights in the sky. He knew that something magical was taking place far away from where he was, but he also knew that he had to be, I'm giving up on that. He knew he had to be present and be with his flock. And sure enough, just a little time after the other shepherds left, a beautiful new baby lamb was born. And it was so special and so beautiful. And Opie's heart was filled with so much joy and happiness. Of course, after a time, the other shepherds came back, and they were telling Opie all about the wonders that they had seen in the manger and all the things that had been present. And they thought for sure that Opie would be jealous or upset, and he wasn't. He was very calm, and he was very serene, happy, full of joy. And the other shepherds said to him, Opie, why? We would think that you would feel bad for missing this. And he said, no. He said, my job was to be here with the flock. And while I was here, I saw a birth. And it was just as beautiful and just as lovely. And while it was happening, something special happened to me. And they're like, what? What happened to you? He said, to my heart, there came a whisper. So today when you go off to your classes, I want you to think about, are there ever times when something has come to your heart that was a whisper? Perhaps it was something divine, maybe it was something from a brother or sister or a friend, or something you got from nature. But that idea that to your heart can come a whisper at a time when beautiful things are happening. That's my story for you today about Opie the shepherd. So I hope you have a wonderful morning.
Thank you. Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church and its work. Each week we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for what they do. And this week, the group is the Pastoral Care Committee. If you have something heavy on your heart and would like to talk to somebody about it anytime, you can contact Eileen, and she or someone from the Pastoral Care Committee would be glad to let you know that we will support you in the ways that you need it. Thank you. And 1/4 of our plate collection for the darkness season goes to Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes. Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes Incorporated provides confidential services at no charge to individuals, children, and families who have experienced sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, and human trafficking in Ontario, Seneca, and Yates counties. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket, or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. We have a sorrow today to share with Kevin that a good long-time friend's wife has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And someone is sharing their thanks for a Christmas concert yesterday in Brockport Symphony and Symphony Orchestra. Great music. And a sorrow with Peter and Mary Beth. Mary Beth's sister passed away Tuesday evening. Sending love. And I'd like to share ongoing concern for our church members, Lynn Westmoreland, who's having a lot of serious medical issues, still in the SICU, and Linda Starkweather, who is trying her best to support her as she can. Keep them in your hearts. And for whatever joys and sorrows there are in your hearts today, I will drop a stone and say, we are with you. And now it's time for the kids who want to go downstairs. If you would like to go down with Pat and Melissa and Kaya.
And so let's take a moment to find that centering place for ourselves as we delve further into our worship. One of the ways to do this is to pick a spot somewhere inside our sanctuary, perhaps a place you've never looked before, and to allow yourself just to take in all that that space is, whether it's a light, whether it's a color. Every Sunday that you come, it's always different. The light from outside changes the light inside. The temperature and heat changes both the feeling as well sometimes as that smell or the olfactory sense of when we smell and feel warmth. So take a moment, let all of your senses be focused on some aspect of the sanctuary, somewhere you've never looked before. See it with new eyes or in a different way, and let it draw you into being fully present here right now. This is a season where, for many, the eyes of a child, or seeing things through the eyes of a child, has a lot to do with how we take on the holiday spirit. My children are Jewish, and so they are about to do their third night of Hanukkah. And for them, not only is it about the presents and the latkes, because it is about those things too, But there's a special prayer that's said each night when the lights are lit on the Hanukkah. Hanukkah being different than a menorah because it has 4 different strands on each side, and it has a middle which holds the candle that lights all the others. It's called the shamash. And of course, some people will say, you should be like the shamash. You should light the light for others. But this is the prayer that my children will be reciting this evening. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu be'mizvot v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Hanukkah. And what it means is, blessed are you, our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy through your commandments and commands us to light the lights of Hanukkah. For my kids, that's part of their eyes, or child eyes, for the holidays. For me, a child of the 60s, a child who grew up on television, I was the channel changer for my father. Those who understand, kids today don't get that. They think everything was remote. No. The oldest child who could move, they were the channel changer. But there came a show from Charles Schulz, and there was one particular part in this show where Charlie Brown raises his arms to the sky and says, "Isn't there anyone who knows the true meaning of Christmas?" To which Linus responds, "Sure, Charlie Brown, I can tell you. Lights, please." And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said, "Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angels a multitude of the heavenly hosts praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest, and peace on earth and goodwill to men." And when he finished the last line, Linus turns and addresses someone, seemingly Charlie Brown, and says, "That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown." For my childhood eyes, that's what Christmas was all about. In fact, Christmas didn't really start until we saw that special on TV, or when my mother was making the Christmas cookies in the kitchen, which usually started sometime after Thanksgiving. Now, I don't know if people you grew up with were the same way. My mother loved baking, and she loved making the cookies, but she also knew her kids really well. And she knew that after she made the cookies, she had to hide them. We never realized that our good friends across the street, the Samuels, not only did they have our Christmas cookies, but they had our Christmas gifts. Because that's how my parents kept the spirit of Christmas alive for us, especially for us who were sneaky. However, when we walked in the evening, if we'd been out sledding or doing something and Mom was baking, she was benevolent. She would be like, "You can eat the burnt ones. The rest are for company." Those are some of the child eyes that came forth. And of course, there was the beauty of carols. There was houses that would be lit up. My best friend Molly and my sister Kathy, we were all about the same age. We would walk around our block at night and we would look at all the houses. And even though it didn't change every night, we would put on what we called the Tree Haven Christmas Lights Show, starring Sue, Molly, and Kathy. And we would sing our little carols in the street and we would comment on the different houses. And every night we'd pick a winner. How? I have no idea. We just did these things. But this was part of childhood, about being outside, about taking in lights, about taking in beauty. And of course, I grew up in a very conservative Irish Catholic neighborhood, of which most other people were Irish Catholic. So there wasn't a lot of diversity. The first time I met a Unitarian Universalist was in high school. Her name was Molly Wagner. And I didn't quite understand any of it. We used to call her a yo-yo, and we were not kind. Until a million years later, that I'm in the Buffalo UU Church, and who is the director of music but Molly's mother? Of blessed memory, Barbara Wagner. And it was quite humbling and quite interesting. And, you know, of course, she understood, as we were children, how we sort of took this church that nobody understood. Everybody, you were either Irish Catholic or Polish Catholic or Italian Catholic. Really wasn't a lot of diversity in West Seneca. But, interestingly, Molly was always a part of all the things we did. That was the house we gathered in to do other activities. And Barbara was very gracious when finally I found my way into the UU church. And in that, I started also to see Christmas in different ways, because being brought up in a particular fashion, I never knew about Hanukkah. Of course, now I do because I have Jewish kids. And it was right around the same time that Kwanzaa was coming into fashion. I never understood what that was. I never understood some of the pagan aspects of Christmas. And because of the UU church, I was able to broaden that sight. The children who are here, they get that privilege, they get that gift. But many of you may have grown up in different areas where the whole celebration of the winter holidays, and I'm not going to just say Christmas because there's a bunch of things to be celebrated, but the winter holidays had a very finite and special definition for you. There is a minister from the Midwest called Meredith Garman, and I want to read to you something that she wrote. It's so good. It's called A Merry Unitarian Christmas. And she says, Christmas is, after all, our holiday. Unitarians made this season what it is. Blasphemy. Consider, what does Christmas mean? It means, of course, the Mass of Christ, the celebration of the birth of a Palestinian prophet named Yeshua, or Jesus. But what exactly does that mean? Historians have no idea what time of year Yeshua was actually born. I'm not saying it different from Yahweh, that's how it was written. Somebody questioned that, somewhere else I was. I'm reading it as she wrote it. The early Christian church celebrated his birthday in April at first, and then it was in June for a while, before settling on a strategy of co-opting Yule and solstice. And thus the first December Christmas wasn't really celebrated until around 380 CE. In the last 200 years, Christmas has been radically transformed, and Unitarians were at the forefront in most of the transformation. Christmas now means we put a tree indoors and we decorate it. This was a practice in Germany, and it was brought to the United States in the early 1800s by Charles Follen. Charles Follen was a Unitarian. Christmas means dashing through the snow, one-horse open sleighs, it means bells that jingle, and it means laughing all the way. That's the song Jingle Bells by James Pierpont. You know what's coming. James Pierpont was a Unitarian. Christmas means music, and in addition to Jingle Bells and other Christmas songs, which include I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Watchmen Tell Us of the Night by John Boeing, and Do You Hear What I Hear by Noel Regney. Yes, Henry, John, and Noel were all Unitarians. Additionally, It Came Upon a Midnight Clear is by a Unitarian minister, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, let's talk about Ebenezer Scrooge and how Charles Dickens in 1843 published A Christmas Carol, and Christmas has never been the same since. You know what's coming. Charles Dickens was a Unitarian. In Dickens' tale, Scrooge confronts the past when he was a young man, his need for money, that is, we suppose, his need for security and status, which also caused him to lose his fiancée Belle. He is shown the present reality of joy in gatherings of families, whether they are poor like Bob Cratchit's or relatively well off like Scrooge's nephew Fred, and then he is brought to an awareness of his own impending death. It's not that Scrooge had implicitly believed himself immortal, it's just that he had pushed the fact that life is temporary out of his mind. And in pushing away death, he had pushed away life, for the two are basically the same. Dickens' novella received immediate popular and critical acclaim, and almost as immediately, it shifted the way that Victorians celebrated Christmas. Over the years, Dickens received hundreds of letters from complete strangers, writing all manner of letters about their homes and hearths and how the carol is read aloud there. A Christmas Carol was regarded as a new gospel. Critics noted that the book was, in their experience, unique in that it actually made readers behave better. A Christmas Carol remains the most widely read aloud book, and it is still theatrically performed. Other popular Christmas tales, such as It's a Wonderful Life, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, are really but reworkings of Charles Dickens' Unitarian gospel. According to historian Ronald Hutton, the current state of observance of Christmas is largely the result of mid-Victorian revival of the holiday spearheaded by A Christmas Carol. Interesting. The Christmas gospel of generosity, gratitude, and the joy of family gatherings is fundamentally Unitarian. The Christmas social gospel is also, that just went the wrong way, is also Unitarian. Christmas means the message of peace on earth to all goodwill. And in 1849, just a few years after Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol, a Unitarian minister, Edmund Hamilton Sears, wrote the words to It Came Upon a Midnight Clear. This was not necessarily a Christmas song, but at the time when it came out, it seemed to go along with that phase in time. Really, it was about the war in Europe and the U.S. war with Mexico, which were weighing on his mind. Reverend Sears wrote a carol that urged us to hear the angels sing of peace on earth and to create goodwill. Now, the Gospel of Luke tells of angels proclaiming peace on earth, but for most of the history of Christendom, that has been taken as referring to a private, personal private, personal peace. There we go. Few imagine that peace on earth actually meant that we would stop killing each other. Reverend Edmund Hamilton Sears, however, was at the vanguard of a movement to understand peace on earth in a social, community term. And instead of merely a personal, private peace, he called us to task for not heeding the angelic call to peace. His lyrics raised objections from a number of Christian conservatives. Many people said contemptuously, Sears's hymn was just the sort of thing you'd expect from a Unitarian. Yes, it is. And so if Christmas season today is a time when hopes turn to ending war, and certainly we have war in our world to hope that that would end, and truly bringing peace on earth, it is because a Unitarian minister wrote a song inviting us to imagine the day when peace shall over all the earth and in ancient splendor fling, and the whole world give back the song which the angels sing. This is our holiday, our Unitarian holiday. Our roots are strong and present from the past to today, and in all ways, Unitarians have made what is Christmas today. Those are the words from Meredith Gorman. And I couldn't have said it better, which is why I read her whole essay, because I love everything that she put into this. We oftentimes don't realize that so much of what we do as Unitarian Universalists have roots, have place, have function in how our world revolves, and especially at the holidays. I like to tell at Thanksgiving that it's actually a gay UU holiday. Why, you may ask? Well, because the Pilgrims first landed in Provincetown, which is a gay mecca, and before they got off the boat, they created their compact, the Mayflower Compact. And if you've studied with UU history, the making of compacts and covenant is at the essence of what we do as congregations and as a community of faith. And there were Universalists on that ship that day. It wasn't all just Puritans. So I like to believe that those early Universalists had some influence on those travelers in making a compact that would determine how they would have governance and have peace in their new country. So next year, feel free to use that when you're sitting at Thanksgiving with those relatives you don't like so much and say, you know, it's a gay UU holiday. Yeah, that'll clear the table. But even with the Christmas components, and again, not just Christmas, because we see so many other holidays that are being celebrated. My children had a wonderful first grade teacher, and I love to name those who do good. Her name is Aubrey Broadfur, and she was trying to figure out how to be inclusive for all the different children. In my children's school, and it's a public school in Amherst, it's also a very poor school. You don't think about Amherst as having poor areas, but this area was very poor. And there were over 43 different cultures and languages in this school. So Aubrey was trying to figure out, I know not all my kids celebrate all the same things, but how can I bring this together? And she talked with a couple of parents, and she came up with the idea of light as the common factor. And she encouraged children and their families who wished to come into school and to share how light is a part of their observances. And of course, for children who celebrate Christmas, it was pretty easy because you have the Christmas tree and the lights and those. But there were lots of others. Of course, my children being Jewish, we brought in a Hanukkah, we brought latkes. Oh, the kids love the latkes. And I also brought them some little grape juice, which they all thought was wine, and we had to do a disclaimer. Your children did not drink wine. They just had some really good grape juice. Kosher grape juice can taste like wine. Anyway, but along with that, other people came, and one family brought a kinara and talked about Kwanzaa. Another family's roots go back to the festival of Santa Lucia. So I have a picture of my daughter with this little crown and all these candles on. And again, talking about light. Even pagans talking about the Yule log and the using of light and how that comes in to ancient beliefs. And it was wonderful because no one got addressed or challenged about what their beliefs were, and it was about light, which allowed then for whatever faith was behind it, but talk about light, kept it where everybody could participate. I thought she was brilliant, and I thought it was a brilliant way to help the children to see that even though they may have different beliefs, they all had things in common. And to this day, for my kids seeing in the eyes as children, they still remember that light, and they still remember the talk about lights. And even if we're not celebrating something directly, they'll still bring that up at, dinners or other areas. It's a lifelong lesson. So I like to think that many of our children today, in difference perhaps where some of us may have grown up, that light informs how we see the season. No matter what your belief area is, no matter what you hold, whether it's driving around looking at Christmas lights, whether it's putting lights on your house, whether it's having lights that are part of your home celebration for whatever it is you're observing. And I like to think that our children, as they're coming up, have that light as part of their presence too. So, I would like you to think about what in your eyes, your childhood eyes, and those eyes of childhood that you carry with you now, what are those things that inform you as the holiday? And we're going to do something. It's not in the order of service, but I do it everywhere, and I meant to put it in. It's called Talkback. Talkback is your opportunity to speak. It's your opportunity to give your thoughts. This is your pulpit. I am a guest here. But your voice is the most important thing here in this congregation. So I'm going to bring my little chair up, and in a minute, I'm going to invite you to talk back and share whatever's on your mind about this topic, or challenge it. It's okay. I can deal with it. I got really challenged down at Jamestown one time. It's okay, because that's part of it as well. So, let's talk back. Yes?
These chairs roll.
Ah, perfect.
They might be
Thank you, Bill.
very easy.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm going to bring the microphone.
Oh, the microphone that I keep breaking.
This is mostly for the folks on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Will they be able to hear people in the,
Well, not sure about that, but hopefully some of it will come through. Here, I thought if you pointed something like this, then it would be out of your way, and it's designed to pick your voice up from a distance. So
we'll see how it works. All right. Feel free to talk back. Do you want to use the mic for?
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Well, this Christmas is interesting because I am spending it with in a new relationship, relatively new. And we've blended our households, and he comes from a very conservative Christian background. And on everything else, we're cool. But whenever I come home from church, what did you talk about today? Did another atheist stand at the pulpit? And I, try to just, because we're not going to convince each other, but I'm sick of the challenging. So we're going to go to his church on Christmas Eve, and that's a concession that I'm making to the relationship and to what's important to him. But I'm really trying to keep my own path too, and my path that my kids are on as well, and blending the very traditional, you must talk about Jesus in the manger every Christmas thing, and blending where I'm traveling in my faith journey is challenging this year. I haven't even put up the Christmas tree yet. I'm kind of resisting it. So that's it. I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it this year because I don't want to be challenged. I don't want to be have the conflict. I just kind of want it to be nice, and I don't want my kids to be hearing anything that I don't agree with, I guess, either. So I was thinking of writing that in the Joys and Sorrows, actually. I could use some support this year in keeping my own mind this season. Next person.
Thank you. Thank you also for being vulnerable. We appreciate that. Other talk back or reflections on both the sermon or about some of the things that we were talking about today?
Come on, guys.
Memories of your childhood.
Is what I just said.
So I like the discussion about how people do the holidays differently. I grew up in Idaho, as many of you know, and I remember times. Oh, we'll get closer to the mic. I grew up in Idaho, and I remember times where we'd go up on the hill and we'd cut a sagebrush, and that would be our Christmas tree for the year. I think you're not supposed to do that, but there's not a lot of rules out there as well. So. And I also grew up in a very different household. As my whole youth, I was raised Mormon, and so it was very conservative. Very, there's boxes, and that's how we fit in the boxes. And so that's been some differences. I think we still do the holidays in a very similar way, but as I've grown and I have my own family now, there's definitely differences as well. My wife is still LDS, and so. Our kids go back and forth, and so there's this give and take, and we find a way to make every part of the relationship work, including holidays, which it can be challenging. But I think we're in a good place now, and I appreciate your comments regarding those differences. There's so many holidays around the winter season, and it's really cool since I've joined the UU Church to see all these things that I just didn't know growing up, the way other people look at it. So I appreciate that.
I know it looks like a confessional, but it really isn't. To be honest.
Well, this is more about light because, I grew up in a sort of a non-religious family, although everybody in the family eventually became Unitarians. But at this time of year, I am actually counting down the days until the sun comes up earlier, and I literally, I don't even, Christmas is good and everything, but boy, looking for the day when I can look in the newspaper and see that the sun came up a minute earlier than the day before. Yes, so that light is really important.
Thank you. Yes, it is.
11 more days.
But who's counting?
Every morning.
That's a good segue into our service for next week, right?
That's right. Celebrate the solstice next week.
I have a memory to share.
Please
But
do.
Can I just do it from here?
Absolutely. Yes,
Keep
absolutely.
singing. My dad passed away a year ago today, And I'll never forget, before Christmas in 1989, when I bought my very first house, he came over and brought me a tree. And I can still see him coming through the front door with the tree. It was probably about 4 or 5 feet tall, with a big tree. But that's a very special memory for me. He said, everybody, I forget how he said it, having a first house, you gotta have a tree. And otherwise, I might not have gotten it. That's a special memory.
Beautiful, thank you for sharing that, that's great.
Well, when I was a young man, grew up in a very dysfunctional family, very. So the holidays were extremely important because it was a timeout. You could have parents that could sit for an hour or two without screaming. So for the kids in the family, I'm sure I'm not alone, it was very, very important time.
It is, the holidays aren't always happy for everybody, or there's those other elements, and I want to hold that too, that it's not all happy, happy, jolly, jolly. And remember those that had to go through that, or you still be going through that for whatever's going on in your life. Thank you for sharing many wishes to have. Memories, cookies, burnt cookies, sledding. Favorite Christmas movies? Yes, Die Hard is included. Home Alone.
Christmas Story.
Yep. That's a classic.
Lord of the Rings.
Every movie can find a Christmas pinup somewhere, or a holiday pinup. So my kids being Jewish, we on Christmas Day, we get Chinese food and they pick a movie. So whatever that movie is, that's the Christmas movie, be it Lord of the Rings or who knows what. Anything else that anyone wishes to share? Well, I want to thank you for sharing, for listening to each other. In doing so, that becomes part of your covenant together of caring, listening, and informing each other. But for me, it's a way that you minister to me. And it's rare that ministers get ministered to sometimes. And so for that, I am very grateful, and I thank you for sharing. closing words for today actually come from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And this is a narrative that takes place between the mayor of Whoville and Cindy Lou Who. And now the nominations for the Who Among Us. Oh, that didn't clean them either. Who best typifies the qualities of whodom and houdini. The Whoville Holiday Cheermeister. Do I hear a nomination? And little Cindy Lou raises her hand and says, I nominate the Grinch. Gasps are heard and the crowd looks horrified. And the mayor says, my, Lou, what an altruistic daughter you have there. And then he addresses Cindy. Cindy, let me quote a verse from the Book of Who. He opens a book and says, the term Grinch shall apply when Christmas spirit is in short supply. Now, does that sound like the holiday cheermeister? Cindy Lou responds, true, Mr. Mayhew, but the Book of Who says this too. No matter how different a Who may be, he will always be welcome with holiday cheer. The crowd watches this exchange now going back and forth between Cindy and the mayor making up facts and fiddling through different pages and trying to get his point across, and Cindy Lou saying back, you made that up, it isn't in there. No, it is, it says it in there. Well, Cindy Lou says, well, what page is it on? And the mayor continuing to fumble, oops, nope, lost my place, no, it's in there. And finally Cindy Lou says, but the book does say that the cheermeister is the one who deserves a backslap or a toast, and it goes to the soul at Christmas who needs it the most. And I believe that that soul is the Grinch. And if you're the Who's, that I hope you are, you will too. And so with that, hopefully we will find someone who needs a backslap or a toast and allow them to be the cheermeister in our holiday host. And now Bill has.
Our closing hymn today is number 238 in the big hymnal, Within the Shining of a Star. Please rise and join us to sing.
Is that you?
Yes.
Extinguishing the chalice?
Yes, please.
Yes.
It can be. Do you want to do it?
No, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So if you will please join me as I extinguish the chalice. Until we are together again. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Thank you.
I had just picked up a Dave Barry book, too. He is the